Tips for developing listening and speaking activities by Juan Pablo Tejada Huerta from the Group 4 of Materials Design. My tutor is Diana Costanza Cruz. Contents of the BLO. In this BLO resource, I will provide you some tips and advices to help you to understand better how to correctly develop speaking and listening activities based on the readings that I already read from the university. Because those readings help me to understand better how to develop different types of materials. So based on that information, I will provide you I will provide you some tips and advices to know how to correctly develop speaking and listening activities to help your students to have a meaningful learning process. Objectives of the VLO. Well, I developed this BLO to provide you the necessary elements to give you a better clarity on how to develop the speaking and listening activities. The second reason is that I will, with the reading my tips and the tips and advices that I will provide you will give you a better perspective on how to develop your activities depending if it's face-to-face or virtualization. And the last reason is that through the BLO, I will help you to help your students to have a better educational process with the tips and advices that I will provide you about how to develop your speaking and listening activities. 5 tips for developing listening activities for face-to-face sessions. Authentic materials should be used so that students are more exposed to the use of target language and its use in real life. Authentic materials are always used in all kinds of activities, although unlike non-authentic materials, it helps students to be more exposed to the natural use of the language, that is to say, in real-life situations. Use interactive listening activities. This aspect is very important because through the interaction between students with the listening activity in mind, students will feel more comfortable and they will be able to share ideas and knowledge to develop the activity or learn better from it. Be selective with the materials you will use. You have to be selective with the materials you handle, whether they are recordings or text, since you have to take into account the linguistic background of the students and that this material motivates them to develop the activity. Develop activities in which you participate so that there is a greater interaction and students learn in a more complete way. By developing activities in which you are also a participant, you will help the students to have more confidence and you will be able to give a feedback through the interaction with the learners while they are developing the activities. Try to vary the activities you propose. If you vary the materials you use for the activities, the students will have to use or develop different competences, which also helps to make the educational process more complete. Okay. 5 tips for developing listening activities for virtual sessions. Use authentic materials too. Authentic materials are important even in virtual environments since it's always necessary to expose students to a more authentic materials and real language, either by performing activities with videos or conversations related to reality. Develop extensive listening activities. This type of activity aims to develop global comprehension of the spoken language through a full understanding of extended conversation or extended situations. That can be through movies, songs, or radio programs. If you use non-authentic materials to develop your activities, make sure that they relate to the topic and are at an appropriate level for the students. If the materials are not authentic, always make sure that at the moment of developing the activities, you must see a development of what you are trying to teach and taking into account the linguistic level of the students. Develop activities where the students can participate by contributing their knowledge. Develop activities where the students can say what they understood from an audio, song, or video to help their partners to have a better understanding of the activity and the topic in general. Take advantage of the use of technology to improve the interaction and feedback between students and teachers as well. Through Web 2.0 tools, a greater interaction can be achieved during the activities. which generates more confidence and motivation to develop the exercises and give a feedback to the students. Five tips for developing speaking activities for face-to-face sessions. Repeat previous activities to help the students to correct their mistakes and to perfect their speaking skills. Through constant repetition of the activities, the student will be able to perfect their level to be able to develop the proper activities. Use authentic materials. Also, the use of authentic materials is necessary here, even more necessary when it comes to speaking activities, since being exposed to the natural use of the language at the same time they will be able to learn and produce it in order to develop the proposed activities and learn at the same time. Adjust the difficulty of the activities to be applied. It's necessary to start with situations that are easy for the students to analyze in order to begin with more difficult topics, so that there is also a process of learning vocabulary and how to pronounce it. Provide reasons for students to communicate. It's necessary to provide opportunities where students have to make use of their knowledge to use the target language. Otherwise, they would only be repeating what the teacher says without learning anything new or developing their own skills. That's the reason why it's necessary to provide them the opportunities where they have to use their knowledge about the target language. Develops activities where the students has to create or adapt new or learn vocabulary. As mentioned above, the teacher should develop activities where students have to create or use their knowledge to develop activities to test their skills. Five tips for developing speaking activities for virtual sessions. Help to build confidence in the students during the development of the activity. We all know that speaking in a different language generates nervousness and insecurity for fear of making mistakes. That's the reason why the teacher must design an activity where the students feel comfortable to participate and develop the proposed activity. Through virtual activities, have students develop dialogue or speech exercises. The teacher must take advantage of the tools available, and therefore the most appropriate thing to do in virtual classes is to develop exercises related to the dialogues and speeches. That could be through a web page, yes, or maybe a game designed by the teacher or something like that, because those activities help the teacher to note to check the level of the students, yes, referring to the speaking skills, right? Use technological materials that help improve interaction among students to develop natural vocabulary used in real life. The interaction between students through the technological tools can help to develop group activities where the students' knowledge is tested and knowledge is complemented by each other. Start teaching topics that are easy for the students to analyze and then add more difficult topics and vocabulary for better adoption, as it was said in the tips of the face-to-face environment. Also, in the virtual environment, it's necessary to take into account the topics that can be analyzed by the students to establish a conversation or oral analysis about it, and then increase the difficulty of the topics as well as the vocabulary. Use authentic materials based on the linguistic level of the students. Authentic materials also apply here because they expose the student to real situations where the language is used, but the level of the students must be taken into account in order to develop the activities with these materials. Well, to conclude, this was BLO. Okay, I conclude that the authentic materials should always be taken into account in the teaching process of students because they are developed based on their abilities and the way they are motivated to continue learning. The second one, interaction is always necessary within speech-related materials and/or activities because of its relevance to the teaching process. And the last one, developing appropriate activities for students will always have a certain degree of difficulty because of all that it entails and therefore is necessary to inquire and learn about developing such materials and what characterizes our students. And here we have the references. Thanks for watching this video and have a beautiful day.